Love family, and welcome to my channel. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And I am your host, Queen Tamara. And welcome everybody. Tonight we have two distinguished, honored guests who have been here with us on the Astral Healing Arts channel in previous times, and I want to welcome them back. And I'm going to get us started on this very, very important topic, which I'm really excited to be talking about because it's just something that is really close to my heart. And I think that we just really need to have this conversation. So, um, first, I'd like to open up and we're going to talk about just a second, having some tech issues. All right. So, peace and love, everyone out there. Tonight, we're going to explore a sensitive topic, but a much needed topic. There are a lot of predators in our community. Many are not so obvious. And, we hear the term wolf in sheep's clothing. However, we got a whole bunch of monster werewolves in sheep's clothing shape shifting in our community. They can be different people at different times for different occasions, wearing masks in public, doing diabolically wicked things in private or only around their victims. And so their subtle tactics are not so obvious to everyone. So in recent years, there have been a lot of high profile cases involving celebrities, famous people, different types of leaders, whether it's spiritual, political, or what have you, that are being exposed. And it's just revealing this pathology amongst us. It's cults and cult like behaviors are being exposed across the country. And unfortunately, the predators and perpetrators of these things look like us. So that may be why it's happening so frequently and so confusing to some. And when they're exposed, people always ask, well, how did they get away with it so long? Why didn't someone do something? How did they get involved with these people? The questions keep coming, and, the questions are endless. And so tonight we're going to be talking about not only this phenomenon, this topic, but also some solutions to protect ourselves and our loved ones from these predators. So tonight's topic is our community, the Black community, more vulnerable to these types of people. So join us tonight are Dr. Ausar Winkler and Brother Marcus Sankofa Nixon. I'll let you all introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves. So who'd like to start?
Dr. Dog, be my guest, my brother. You can go first.
I'm not that great at ever explaining myself. As Brother Sankofa has probably heard me say a million times. It's not, and part of that is due to I wear so many different hats. But in this case, I would say I'm a psychotherapist, the founder of Tina Holistic Wellness Center. I've worked with many people in our community in the clinicals from a clinical standpoint. I have training and also experience in working with domestic violence, um, domestic violence, and other, um, I guess I would say, individuals that exhibit certain behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very versed in personality, and lots of times, um, what we're going to be talking about tonight, I assume would be linked back to personality. So, I mean, it's a lot of things I can say, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop it there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and welcome again, Brother Marcus.
Peace. I share similar sentiments as brother Dr. Daw. Wear many hats. Marcus Sankofa Nix is the name. I'm a historian, primarily one that is focused primarily on the historic plight of those of African descent, African Americans, Black people, Black folk, primarily in the United States. Um, Also, having been a long time educator in the K through 12 public school system and also in higher education, working with a lot of students from a trauma informed approach, supporting students by way of mental health support and education, and also having spent some time as a curator as well in museums, providing therapeutic support in terms of ways we can reimagine history and use history as a vehicle of healing. I have a business that I operate entitled History Heals Consulting. So I take this work on the road and support educators in all educational spaces, businesses, nonprofits, various institutions on how history can be used as a vehicle to uplift, empower, and inspire. And I'm glad to be here with you folks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us, both of you.
Likewise.
And we have another guest. There she is, Sister Naadiya. Welcome, welcome. We just started the introduction. So if you want to take a moment to introduce yourself, peace and love.
Peace and love, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Greetings.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm Sister Nadia, and the Nation of Islam, not under any particular minister, but other teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I've also served in the New Black Panther movement and Coalition Underserved Missing of VA, Virginia. I
Mhm.
find out missing people, whether they were children or adults. So, just doing a lot of work, a lot of cross-referencing work with other organizations too, like the Lions of Judah. Is
Okay.
one of them, and a few others. So I
Well,
do
thank
this.
you. Thank you.
hmm
Thank you for joining us this evening. All right. So this topic is very, I think it's just something that we need to really delve into in our community because it seems like I know what's trending right now. Everybody's talking about this situation with the diddler and the video that was released with him and
Yeah,
the situation in the hotel. Yeah, I believe it was a hotel in
yeah,
LA, and it's just all this talking about this, and now that it's being exposed because at one time, he was denying all the charges against him. Now this video has surfaced and is showing the young lady running down the hall from him, one sock on. I don't need to show the video, it was triggering enough, but one sock on and bags in tow. And then he's chasing her in a towel. And then, the violence starts and whatever, from there. And it, a lot of people, are speaking out against this and speaking about this rather. And it's a repeating pattern that I'm seeing in our community because there was other situations similar to this with other celebrities or
yeah.
social media influencers, leaders, or whatever, what have you, whatever they call themselves. And they keep being exposed as being abusers or predators in our community. So I'm just like, when is this? I think this is why we need to have a conversation about this because it seems like there's an overwhelming majority of abusers, exploiters, manipulators, narcissists in our community, and they're not being held accountable for their behavior, nor are they, answering to seems like they don't need to answer to anyone. So why do you all think there seem to be so many predatory so-called leaders in our community?
Ego,
Whoever
ego and
wants to
opportunity. Ego and opportunity.
start. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ego and opportunity. Once you gain a following or some type of popularity where people will actually listen to you and hold, they can hold your attention,
Mm-hmm.
then they start the manipulation. And for
Mm-hmm.
younger people, they can start the grooming. Yeah, all they have to do is get in your head, and then that's pretty much it after that. Like a Jim Jones scenario type thing. I can take, for instance, just started there, the Nation of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Um, After the messenger died, then he made a whole had a whole interview where they asked him, who would be his successor when he passed, and he
Mm-hmm.
said pointedly there would be no successor. There was no need for a successor once you come face to face with God. What would another one do? And
Mm-hmm.
that was his interview with the press. Elijah Muhammad meets the press. I believe that was 1972, part two
Mm-hmm.
of the interview. And so his son Wallace, almost as soon as he died, he staged a coup
Mm.
And yeah, and then Farrakhan came in because he didn't know what to do with himself. And then he just came in and joined Wallace as his national representative. Together, they brought down the nation, sold all the properties, did whatever they did with the money. And fast forward to them inviting Jim Jones to Temple Number Two in Chicago to
Mm-hmm.
address their followers or whatever. So the Nation of Islam was no longer the Nation of Islam for the lost found so-called American Negroes in North America. It was Orthodox slash Sunni type under
Mm.
their leadership. So the
Yeah.
whole scope changed. So then they befriended Jim Jones and brought him in where he, I think, let me see, his organization was called the People's Temple. So when he came in and got on the dais and he started, brother this, sister that, y'all my brothers this, y'all my sisters that, and held them, he had a captive audience then because, we were
Yes.
talking about, differently as
Mm-hmm.
far, people that don't look like us. I put it that way.
Okay.
And so he's like, the draw was, my brothers, we all brothers and sisters, blah, blah, blah. So he drew their attention where they started thinking differently and started accepting things that he was saying. And he was such a force and master manipulator uh,
Mm-hmm.
that he pretty much drew them towards him to trust him. And they, not all of the people, but some of them actually left the temple and followed him into the jungles of Guyana.
Mm.
And they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a very charismatic leader.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I remember when I was growing up, people talked about in reference to Jonestown, I think it was
Yeah,
Guyana a lot. Yes,
hmm
so I am familiar with him.
yeah,
Thank you.
they're one of the senators too that came out there because of complaints that kind of got out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the people wanted to leave and he wouldn't let them leave, so they took the plane
Yes.
to Guyana. And when they were trying to leave, they mixed with them a little bit to see what was going on when they were ready to leave. And when I say they, I mean the senator and the people that were with them. They
Uh-huh.
stopped them on the airstrip,
They
and
did what?
it stopped them on the airstrip so they couldn't leave. And the senator ended up dying amongst other people. Bear with me one moment. Let me get my charger.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Would let me see. Who would like to go next? Brother Sankofa?
Yeah, I was speaking until I realized I was mute. Do me a favor, Queen Tamara, and repeat the question again for me.
Yes. Why do you think there are so many predatory so-called leaders in our community?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think ego and opportunity, as the sister just said,
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a part of the formula. I think it's definitely part of the equation.
Yes.
Um, I think it always helps. And those who know me and those who are around me always know that I tend to go down this road. I think it helps to explore the history of the
Mm-hmm.
individual. And oftentimes, some of those behaviors and those tendencies and those attitudes in terms of abuse, and I'm sure at some point we'll define abuse for the people so we can be speaking from the same vantage point. But just for the sake of what I'm saying now,
Yes.
I think it helps to look at the family dynamic. It helps
Mm-hmm.
to look at their roots. Marcus Garvey said, "A people without knowledge of their culture and history is like a tree without roots." So I believe it's important when looking at these opportunistic exploiters,
Mm-hmm.
the predators, these influencers, those who don't mean our community well. I think it's important to look at their socialization process. I think it's important to look at how they were reared, how they were brought up. And I think oftentimes you find some consistencies or some themes or some patterns in terms of
Mm-hmm.
perhaps what was done to them. Perhaps some
Exactly.
of that predatory behavior might have been done to them. And then
Mm-hmm.
they're just doing that which has been done to them. And even though uh, these behaviors may be harmful, may be negative and degrading, and even these behaviors may even affect health outcomes down the line. Oftentimes, it still may be behavior that may continue to be pervasive and might continue to persist. I think that it's now in this day and age, I think you have to even having this type of conversation that we're having. And as I'm talking, I'm hearing something in the background. I don't know if it's
Yes,
what.
it's somebody's connection just has static.
Okay. Yeah. But I know even with conversations like this, our community is not in full agreement on if these predators that we perhaps speak to are predators, if we should take them serious. We're haters, if we call them out, or what does calling them out look like? What does accountability look like? So I think it's definitely a complicated conversation. In terms of, I think he says something I believe about, is our community more susceptible? I think that, the Black community is not the only community that experiences abuse and that experiences, behavior of individuals trying to impose their way, trying to manipulate, take advantage. I think that's important to say that, because oftentimes I think we believe we're the only ones that have these issues. However, there definitely is some healing that needs to be done within the Black community, and the data supports that, and the data speaks to that, and so getting in the midst of our relationships and looking at that, I think, is very important, and so I think it's definitely important to have this conversation. It's important to talk about it, and it's a lot to unpack. So I'll just leave it at that for now. But as I said before, I do think it's important to go back before moving forward and look at the person's development and how they came into being who they were. And I think that could inform us and give us a lot in terms of what to move forward with.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And Dr. Ausar?
Yeah, I guess I would like to quantify or qualify so many in the Black community. I just want to be clear that I don't think there's more predators in the Black community than any other community. Two, I want to qualify that. I'll just stick there. So I don't think there's any more in the Black community, but I will say that there's more due to, not more, there's so many due to various reasons. One reason being predators in general in communities is that social media makes it easy to do it. One. Two, especially when we're talking about the Black community, we're talking about people who have been through lots of hurt, pain, and trauma. And in fact, again, I still say not just the Black community, not to take it off the Black community, but just to also not to come across as if the Black community has more of a deficit than any other community, right? So I think there's a major issue in the community as it pertains to us in our community. But when there's oppression, people have hope and they're looking for ways out of oppression. And they're more likely to be susceptible to one who is, or who they suppose, or who is claiming to be a true force of liberation. I'm also thinking about this, as Brother Sankofa alluded to already. When you think about oppressors, I'm sorry, when you think about, I'm sorry, something's kind of throwing me off a bit back there. So when you think about the trauma that takes place in American society, it is likely to create people
Mm-hmm.
who are more likely to traumatize other people. And what I mean by traumatizing other people, that is through abusive and manipulative and uh, 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 violent and aggressive methods. So, because there's a lot of oppression, poverty, crime, racism, disparities of all kinds, it creates a void in people. It creates fatherless households. It creates motherless households. It creates addictions. It creates all types of things that creates trauma in people. And these same people grow up feeling less than. Hence, they grow up having less than a true formed identity. Hence, they play on other people to fill that void that they have inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they get supply off of other people. They need to feel good. They need to feel powerful. They need to do these things. In fact, that manipulation, sex, power, control, all these things are abusive tactics. And in the end goal is power, control, admiration, all these type of things. So yeah, so basically it has to boil down to we're dealing with a lot of unresolved, unhealed, unprocessed, complex trauma.
Yes, yes, I can agree with that. Um, I just when said that, do you think there are so many predatory so-called leaders in our community? And because this is the community I know well, and by me growing up and being groomed in this culture, this is the one that I see the most. And there seem like there's so many subcultures within our culture, and there's like someone that's seen as the leader or the spokesperson or the face for certain things, whether it's the sororities and fraternities or political parties, or like the queen mentioned, the new Black Panther party. It's like all these different groups, what spiritual groups as well,
Mm-hmm.
conscious community, this and that, and it's all of them have these leaders that popping up. Some have been around for a long time, some of them are new, and one after the other, they're being exposed for, not all of them, but a lot, too many are being exposed for manipulation, abuse, fraudulent tactics, and they're being, like brother Marcus has said earlier, they are, they have their supporters who will ride or die for them, and then if you criticize or bring up any accusations,
Yeah.
you get called a hater, you get
Yeah.
blackballed, you get, it is like, if you say anything, they they don't even have to come after you, their supporters will come after you
Right.
because you're talking about their leader or their loved one or whatever they want to call it. So that's
Right.
what I wanted to speak on. Do y'all want to comment on that?
Yes, I'll be glad to.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because I've been in those rooms.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'll give a prime example. This one brother that was I can't even call him a brother, to be honest with you. He had like multiple rape charges, even gang rape with a minor,
Mm-hmm.
another
Mm-hmm.
boy that participated in this, and he lives in Florida, but he was a
Mm-hmm.
member of the party. And the whispers have been going on for years. The sisters knew about his record and things like that. And it's like, how can he serve as any kind of officer or just be in the movement at all? With him having these rape charges,
Mm-hmm.
but it kept getting brushed on the rug, brushed on the rug, brushed on the rug. So it came to a point that in Florida, he was spearheading this program for young people at a recreation center
Mm-hmm.
for the boys. I guess it was supposed to be like manhood training, some kind of program or whatever. He had
Mm-hmm.
couple of brothers from Farrakhan's Nation of Islam, at least one, that participated in the brothers, who are the brothers? I forgot what you call them. To wear the purple robes.
Maybe the Israelite group.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
those guys. So they were a couple of them were there as representatives to be in the program with him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a couple of them, and then they had these young boys in there that they were supposed to be mentoring. So there's a few people that took offense to that. It was like, this dude is a predator.
Mm.
How's he allowed to function as some type of mentor in this capacity at this recreation center?
Right.
And so, yeah, so some things had to be addressed about that. But my point is, the whole time that he was in the other org, um, it was just brushed under the rug. You
Mm.
know, it
Brushed
was
under the
just
rug
brushed
by
under
the members of the group.
the most. Yeah, a lot of them they knew about it. That's what I'm saying. But the sisters were yelling about it. This ain't right. This ain't right, and they just ignored.
Mm.
So this went on for a long time, and so so it just got when it started getting loud, then people started stepping down and high level officials started stepping down, and I just put it that way. And then he decided to start his own Panther group.
Mm.
So when you were saying as far as offshoots or subgroups and stuff like that, they just keep splintering out.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep splintering out. It's just like tree branches. You got a name for the trunk, and then you have all these sprouting branches everywhere, and they all
Yes.
have a similar name, but then they have different leaders and they have different agendas,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's really united, for the good, oftentimes. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I have been aware of, and it was just a whole mess. So then you have another entity where unity is not found. When you have these so-called social media personalities and leaders, whatever, like, well, he's no longer with us, Kevin Samuels,
Mm-hmm.
and his toxicity, extreme toxicity, in the
Mm-hmm.
guys that follow him, that bully women, you know,
Okay.
online, online. So it's like they're getting out all their baby frustrations, and they can do that, safety of their computers or their phones or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I just heard this broadcast from what's his name, Charles White. Same thing,
I'm
and
not
a bunch
familiar
of
with
women
that.
haters are on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Charleston White.
Charleston. Yes, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's some type of social media personality. Pretty
Okay.
controversial. So it seems like he's stepped in the Kevin Samuel's shoes at how can I
Mm-hmm.
say, certain capacity.
Okay.
Then it, and when I'm talking about unity, I use the word Willie Lynchism a lot, because there's so much separation. Because our people, our culture, unfortunately, we just can't get it together. To
Mm-hmm.
one of you was talking about healing. I think it was Brother Marcus talking about
Yes.
healing. It's hard to heal when you always have someone that looks just like you, always sabotaging. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
heal when you keep sabotaging. You keep throwing hand grenades whenever somebody try to rebuild something. You just keep destroying it, and they
Mm-hmm.
do it with glee. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
there's always going to be some leaders and splintering and sub leaders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they're just going to carry on that new culture that they have created,
Mm-hmm.
destruction,
Mm-hmm.
from inside.
Yes.
So you have to look around, see who your enemies are. They may wear the same uniform as you. They
Mm-hmm.
may say the same type of greetings as you, et cetera, but they may not be with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, they may not be with you. They have a whole different agenda set up. And it's all about separation between us. When we're supposed to be united, we just can't do it because you have these people that are sabotaging
Mm-hmm.
deliberately.
Yes.
So what do you do with that? You can't heal from that when already have planned destruction hitting you from all sides. And so, people use the words agents a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, when you disagree or you call out someone on their BS,
Mm-hmm.
then they call you a hater. Like the whole thing you just ran down, Tamara.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's very prevalent. Their followers are going to hit you, then they're
Yes.
going to come with the leader. The leader, like you said, don't have to do much. It's their followers that are
Mm-mm.
going to do it.
Right.
The followers that do the dirty work for them.
Yes. There's something else that
So,
I've noticed too. Every time one of these incidents take place, you when the perpetrators are male and it's involving females,
yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I hear people say is one of the first things you hear is they are just doing this for money. They're just trying to take the man down. That they're trying to just do this
Yeah.
to him because he's a man. Um,
Yeah.
do you all hear that often as well?
I
I've heard that. Mm-hmm.
I think it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think there's many different ways you could look at that. Now,
Okay.
okay, we talk about the pain and the hurt that
Mm-hmm.
many have experienced. Some might be bitter, and it may just be as simple as that. Perhaps if Dr. Dahl mentioned fatherlessness, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, and perhaps an abusive male partner. So one of the things that tends to happen is if somebody has been victimized by a perpetrator, an abuser, then what may happen is then the trauma response is, if that situation happened, then
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going to generalize and make everybody the enemy, or everybody is out to get me. The threat becomes magnified. Even
Right.
even Sister Nadia just mentioned a few moments ago, agent. I've been in the community for a little while. I know that term agent has been used very loosely, and I
Yes.
would
Yeah.
argue that, well, there are perhaps those who definitely come with ill intent and ill will, but I would argue that everybody's not an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Not
That's right.
everybody. you
That's
know.
just the
Um,
easy go-to.
but I would also say it's more than that as well. And what I mean is it's more than just trying to bring the black man down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's different types of abusers. There's different types of perpetrators. I
Yes.
think
Yes.
P Diddy, the social
Mm-hmm.
media, the celebrities is different than uh such and such in closed doors at home.
Mm-hmm.
Which is different than pastor such and such, which is different than this
Right.
organizational leader. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually um is a lot of different types of things, abuses or ways in which people are mistreated and abused and taken advantage of. Um, some of the things that I've just noticed is that there tends to sometimes be this code where even if you see something and if you observe something, as opposed to maybe saying something or speaking out, you go along to get along. And I think what may happen
Right.
is because, you know, oftentimes that need to have that sense of belonging and that need to be with a group, that need could be so strong it could have those it
Mm-hmm.
could have individuals overlook what they shouldn't overlook for the sake of going along to get along.
Great
I
point.
Right.
I also believe that
Mm-hmm.
it's not always easy to get out of a situation that is abusive. I hearken back to enslavement, where
Mm-hmm.
our people were
Mm-hmm.
on the plantation, and some say, well, if I was on that plantation, I would have left. I would have been a rebellious slave. I would have got the heck up out of there. I would have ran. I would have split for it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
uh, but you still faced getting caught. You still faced dogs. You still faced slave catchers. You still faced all these other things. And even in today in 2024,
Mm-hmm.
with the Diddy situation, from what even the video showed, the sister was trying to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And even
Right.
the data supports in domestic violence that 50% of those who try to escape and get away,
Mm-hmm.
though they get killed. There's the
Mm.
those 50% of those who try to get away
Mm-hmm.
in abusive relationships,
Mhm.
that homicides follow thereafter. So my point is that it's not it's not always easy for people to get away. Sometimes people feel as though the way the trauma goes, oh, I deserve what I get.
Yeah.
I deserve what I get. In fact, if he don't slap me upside the head, or if he's not pushing his weight around, then he don't love me. Or
Mm-hmm.
Right.
these are so I'm just throwing out some examples that some of us may have heard of our own
Stockholm
stuff,
syndrome.
but I'm just throwing out some stuff that
Mhm.
it really happens in terms of people's thought process and different things like that.
Yes.
And I also think we are in a society where people's attention span is so short. I
Mm-hmm.
said to I said to Dr. Daw, because I try to see what's going on social media, and all that. But I'd be like, bruh, who this new cat? Who this new
Mm-hmm.
cat? Who just came on the scene? He got more followers, and I just met the brother, but this momentum, this newness,
Right.
this wave of excitement, and then
Mm-hmm.
till it run out, till people peak game, and they move on to something else. And
Mm-hmm.
Right.
so I think that I think these are all things to be careful with, to be mindful of.
Yes.
And so yeah, I think that definitely um we're in a day and age where also people are afraid to call stuff out.
Yes.
People are afraid. People would rather, even if we see stuff, if we see somebody getting brutalized, or if we see somebody being taken advantage of in certain situations, we'll rather just hold this up and record it,
Right.
and instead of trying to do what we have to do,
This is true.
or mind your
Mm-hmm.
business, mind your
Yes.
business,
Right.
stay,
Mhm.
Yes.
there's a whole lot of moving parts to this conversation, but
Yes, it
these are
is.
just some of the things that I've heard. And but once again, I think that there still is an issue and a problem that has to be addressed in terms of the exploitation, the abuse, and taking advantage of, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
you made both of you made some very important points that we're going to touch on. Let's hear from Dr. Asar.
You on mute, Dr. Dahl?
That's you. You on mute, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You said the question was around women, um uh, if they come out against their offender, that they are being shamed or something like that. What was it?
What were we saying? We touched on so much. I
Basically
think
being retaliated against.
we were talking about, yeah, how yeah, the retaliation for speaking out
Mhm.
against people who are popular, or the so-called leaders. When you speak up against them or bring allegations towards them, how you get shamed. They accuse you of wrongdoing. They accuse you of trying to, be of jealousy, or trying to take that person
Mhm.
down. But when you're bringing for valid um
Hmm.
complaints or concerns or
Right.
accusations.
Yeah. I think what it does, it messes up our fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and
That's
and and traumatize people and or communities. We have certain fantasies, and so to us, a Puffy or someone like him, or Pete Diddy, whatever his name is right now,
Yeah, polite or whoever, all of
or
them.
Polite, or Umar, or anybody, right? These
oh,
people
okay,
are the
polite.
ones. These are the ones that will save us.
Mm-hmm.
They have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
So because they have the answers, and we bought into it hook, line, and sinker, we can't see them doing any wrong, and any wrong that they do should be excusable because they are the ones that are going to save us. So we
Mm-hmm.
bought into the fantasy, and
Mm.
Mhm.
all abusive people tend to control
Mhm.
people people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And this is I don't actually see it as different. Even I see that some people do it on the individual level inside of their houses, and some people do it on grander levels.
Yes.
Abusive tactics are abusive tactics are
Mm-hmm.
abusive tactics.
True. True.
Some people
Right.
do it very on very individual levels, and some people do it on
Yes.
more grander levels.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
somebody like Puffy, he dragging that woman out the hotel. That means she didn't feel any different when he when he hit her. You know, he just has more money and power to actually do it a lot longer,
Mm.
possibly,
Yeah.
and do it with more people and all these type of things. But the reality is, we see Puffy as a symbol that we are black and excellent.
Mm.
So to tarnish that image is problematic to us. It presents a level of dissonance. It's actually to be expected, but it's downright frustrating
Mm-hmm.
because we have all signed up for this American fantasy
Mm-hmm.
about black excellence and this individual success, and we in this celebrity culture, which is an American phenomenon that's kind of gone across the world, but is a very narcissistic culture,
Yes.
which creates narcissistic individuals and narcissistic ideals. So we have these
Mm-hmm.
narcissistic ideals. We idol worship
Mm-hmm.
in a country that call itself Christian. You know, we idol worship in a country that says it's God. It's all about God.
Mm-hmm.
We create individuals that are bigger than life,
Mm.
and if you were to say that they weren't the perfect people that we think they are, that would devastate us. So we refuse to see it. And in fact,
Mm-hmm.
we also know that, as I think that dear sister said, she spoke about Stockholm syndrome. Is it's very common in abused parties, because I say, when we're talking about these grand level people, that we are all a part of this fantasy, this collective fantasy, and it's very difficult. That thing, whatever that is, it gets my thoughts.
Maybe you heard me typing because I was sending myself a note.
You the typo. That's what it is.
I didn't know you all could hear that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, hold on. You mess with my flow now, Queen Tamara.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, flow, bro. Go ahead.
hey, look, no, I'm tired. But so the thing is, so pardon. But yeah, so that collective fantasy, just to kind of wrap it up, that collective fantasy, that picture. How many people, like for example, people stay in relationships on an individual level because they have created a fantasy, or let's say a picture.
Mm-hmm.
That you when you get with a partner, you've already looked 100 years in the future. You've already looked at least 50 or 60. I mean 40. It depends on what age you are. You look to the age of 80 at least, right? You're like, I'm going to be with this person for my life.
Right.
We're going to have children. We're going to retire together. We're going to be on a beach together. We're going to do this together. We never talk. The sickness is not even a part of it, right? No, we don't talk about sick. We just know that we're supposed to build business together. So that's on the individual level. But we do the same thing with a person like a Umar Johnson, who we say Umar is supposed to build this school. So some of us are refusing to let go of that fantasy.
Mm.
And the closer he gets to it, the more likely, the more difficult it's for us to let it go. Because he has buildings, quote unquote. But the reality is, if he does open up a school, if he does, it just gives him more room to do more harm. Because just like Jim Jones, he did some things. You talked about Jim Jones today.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, we have signed up for the fantasy, and we all know we've been in relationships. It doesn't matter if it's a community relationship, if it's a religious relationships, where it hurts to sever those relationships. Because even if we saw the stuff and we experienced the abuse, but even if it's not abusive, but we know that the relationship has run its course. We have to now restructure the way we see the world. In the world for so long, I did not see a future without you. So because I didn't see a future without you, now I have to really restructure and see what the world looks like without you, and that
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot of work. So that's what happens.
Mm.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
we
yes.
buy into that shared fantasy, that collective fantasy. I'm writing a book right now, and I'm gonna have a lot of it up in there.
On that
Yeah.
topic. Okay.
Healing, yeah, about healing community and all that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
brother said,
hard to
oh,
separate yourself.
brother,
I'm
oh, go
sorry.
ahead, sister. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that just on Dr. Asar's point as far as hard to separate yourself. A lot of times that's out of fear because you're used to having that community
Mm-hmm.
connection with those people that you're used to dealing with. And it's just like getting out of a bad relationship. You're just so used to being around that person. It's like, how am I going to function and, go about
Mm-hmm.
my day to day and
Start
that person
over.
in my life anymore? Yeah, just starting over. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, brother Marcus mentioned something about the conspiracy. I call it the conspiracy of silence, and
Hmm.
which leads to the question that I wanted to talk about. How is this something that's historical? Because I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s. Nowadays, you don't hear that as much, but I always heard people say, what happens in this place stays in this place. Like what
So,
happens in this house stays in this house. You don't
right.
talk about that. And when people spoke up against about abuse in their own families, they got
Hmm.
demonized for that. Or you don't
Right.
say things about the pastor. Yeah, he may have touched someone, but
Hmm.
we've all fallen short from God's glory. I used to hear that all the time growing up. Or you can't judge Reverend so and so, or you can't judge this person or that person because we've all fallen short. We've all
Yeah.
sinned. You can't say that this terrible person because they got faults just like you. They will always say stuff like that, and that would kind of
Right.
put people in a place of silence. Like if you speak up and speak out about wrongdoing,
Right.
you're the one that's held
Causing.
in a bad light, or right, you're the one that's demonized or talked about or excommunicated from the group because you are the troublemaker, not the person that's committing the crime, not the person that's stealing from the group, or the person that's whether it's a sexual predator or emotional or verbal abuse or manipulation, whatever it is, they're not the problem. It's you for being a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And a lot of times I remember growing up when people would have domestic issues or other kind of issues, people would say, the most of the adults around me would say, mind your business. That don't concern you, mind your business. So I think there maybe in our consciousness or something, there's this it's not about me, so I'm not getting involved attitude or something.
Hmm.
Is that why? So maybe that's what do you all think? Is that one of the reasons why it's so many predatory behaviors, because people feel like it's not about me, I'm not getting involved, I'm not snitching, I'm not talking about it. That's not my sister, that's not
Yeah,
my wife.
I think you said it.
Yeah,
I think part of, I mean, it's so much, right? We know we can never answer
Yeah.
the question
yeah.
in its
It's
fullness,
like a
right?
series.
Right, right. So it's so much, right? But just
Mhm,
to kind of build off of what you said,
mhm,
when we talk about uh everybody everybody has is imperfect. Everybody's a sinner. Or, sometimes see what happened. We conflate things, and I'm quick, and
Hmm.
we conflate all types of things. Like I was having a conversation with a brother about another brother who's in our community, and he does all types of holistic. I mean, and we all know you're heavy into the holistic community, and there's a lot of
mhm.
holistic frauds out here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to say about 9 out of 10 of them. Okay. So what I'm saying, so I'm just being honest. If it might, and I might be immodest right then and there, but there's a lot of holistic frauds.
Mhm,
And so the brother, he uses, see, we have been indoctrinated through our oppression to say things like that. We all sin, we all this, and we all that, and we all this, and and he's a man, and he's a human, and she's a this, and everybody's this. I said, well, let me be clear. Let me be clear.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I go to the bathroom, and yes, I fart. Yes, I do. Excuse me, pardon me, y'all. I ache sometimes. And maybe I might lose my temper sometimes.
Right.
Maybe sometimes. But I don't make a living off of it. I don't make a habit of it. And I might even feel ashamed after doing it. But the reality is there's a difference between a flaw and a
Yes.
fraud.
And a fraud. Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
there's
Please
a
say it
difference
again.
between a flaw and a fraud.
Right.
And I don't even like, I mean, even is a flaw or something that happened or what happened, but it's not a part of my personality, my pattern of behaviors. I might fight somebody one day. I'm not, look, I haven't fought anybody in a long time, but maybe, just maybe I might punch somebody in the face. But I don't do this for a living. This doesn't happen every day. I might in my lifetime between now and I die, I might call a woman out of her name. I may. But I don't go on social media and make it a habit of it. And I'm probably gonna be ashamed if I do it. You know what I'm trying to say? So what I'm saying is a difference between practicing something consistently, it being a lifestyle, and it being something that you just were overwhelmed and you did something that you probably regretted later. These people don't regret any of that.
No.
So,
and they never admit, like you just said, like, we have flaws. The predators never admit that they have a flaw.
No, they don't. And even if they do, it's just a way to get back in and love bomb you, to lure you back into his chambers or her chambers,
right?
To make prey out of you again.
Yep.
Right.
And the other, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. No, I was just piggybacking off of your point. As far as them doing it again, even in households with incest, that sort of thing. And like Sister Tamara was saying, you had that thing in your home where they will say, whatever happens in this house stays in this house, and nobody's perfect, and you know how men are. That's another big one.
Absolutely.
A man is gonna be a man.
Yeah.
So it's all kinds of excuses just to keep people silent.
And many times, if we can crosstalk a little bit, many times that's because that person's also experienced it and had to normalize it in their mind. They had to, so the thing is, see, I have a lot of compassion for our people, even those who say those things, because people, so the trauma is so real that we have to dissociate from it. And we have to dissociate from the pain and the reality that this is bad. So in order to really deal with this, we find a way to act like it doesn't exist, or we minimize it. We have to do this for our own sanity, in a sense.
Yes.
So so to deal with the dissonance, the uncomfortability, the reality that somebody, even my father raped me, or my mother did something to me, or my aunt did something to me, or he did this to me, I have to somehow see this person in another sense. This is important because I can't see my father as a beast. I have to see my father as something different. And in fact, that's one level. But also the other thing I'm thinking about is this thing is that many of us aren't clean. We feel like we're not living on our squares ourselves. And this is what I find out about brothers a lot of times, and even sisters, but specifically brothers, because I'm hoeing around. Excuse my language, y'all. I call him a hoe, not her. Okay, excuse me, language. So because I'm hoeing around, I can't call out Brother Ausar if he's hoeing around. I can't call out Brother Sankofa, but we gonna call each other out because we ain't even gonna look. They ain't even part of our brother Sankofa. We ain't look. If we was doing something, we gonna be ashamed of it. So we ain't gonna show tell nobody each other,
right?
Because we know we gonna check each other. What are you doing? What's happening? What's up with that? I ain't saying you don't see nobody that's beautiful, but the reality is, no. Look, bro, that ain't the right thing. You don't do that to your wife, bro. Why? What you trying to do? You trying to mess up your family? You trying to hurt her? So the thing is, a lot of brothers I know for sure, because they are guilty themselves, and not maybe to the same magnitude that they give brothers all types of passes, but also stuck in that same level of fantasy that these people on the leadership level are going to somehow save us, and some of us want to be their friends, and it's all types of reasons. It's endless.
No, that makes sense what you just said, because a person who's like a narcissist person, they're surrounded by enablers and other many narcissists who will look the other way when they do the crimes and the unscrupulous stuff they do, because like they're enablers. They'll make excuses for them. They maybe secretly envy them in some way or something, and so they just act like whatever they do is okay, as long as it didn't happen to me.
Or Sister Tamara, as long as they benefit from it.
Right.
So this came up earlier in our conversation.
Yes.
There's a void, there's an emptiness, and in this book right here that Dr. Dahl, myself, and others have definitely studied in. Dr. Joy DeGroove's work, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, it speaks about this notion of vacant esteem, having very low self-value and self-worth. So to get some type of recognition and some validation and some acknowledgement, we'll drop some principles real quick to be in the good graces of that which is feeding the emptiness at the expense of the behavior that we see, that we choose to ignore or be in denial about. And I see that a lot. I think it was also mentioned a few moments ago as well that it's so helpful for us to be able to deal with our feelings and to really manage our emotions and do that very important work. And what I often have noticed is we become overprotective. We become overprotective and make excuses or easily defend the other person, even though they're inflicting harm. And I've seen it. And it's like you say something, you question something, you can't even question stuff half the time, and then somebody wants to make excuses and then protect them. And it's like, well, no, it's not an attack. It's not an attack, but the person may have is also dealing with their own rejection or their own inadequacy. So they don't want to, they're protecting that person, the predator or the abuser. So they're protecting them because they're trying to keep them from feeling that uncomfortable feeling that they feel.
Right.
And I see that happen as well too, where we become overprotective. So, and we do it all the time. And the easy way to see that is even with our children. We will protect them. And I know you, Sister Tamara, talked about even historically, some of the things that we have done have been protective measures to survive. We may not have said anything and kept it in house, because if we did say something and stir up something, we might get sold down to Mississippi. We might get sold to Alabama. We might get sold to South Carolina. Even when Harriet Tubman left, went to Pennsylvania, they don't say the side of the story that, well, in Eastern Shore, it was harder for those who stayed on the plantation, because they said, oh, okay, Harriet gonna leave? Well, look, let her go. But y'all got another thought coming. If y'all think y'all gonna follow suit, we're gonna make it more harder on y'all. So sometimes we might have to keep stuff in-house, or sometimes there's been times we've done it to protect ourselves. But what I would argue is that sometimes these things that we might have done to protect ourselves before might have worked at a certain point, but they may not serve us any longer. They may not serve us anymore. They become maladaptive, and they become things that actually hinder us in the long run. And so, part of that trauma as well too is mustering up the courage to speak, mustering up the courage to say something, because we are dealing with stereotypes. If I don't want to be the angry black man and the angry black woman. And the thing that also happens too, there's a lot of abuse, and there's a lot of people who are taken advantage of, even in the workplace. Even in the workplace. I know Dr. Dahl recently put out a post about being in these white spaces, these professional spaces, and the culture and the racial battle fatigue, the supervisor, the boss, the passive aggressive stuff, the microaggressions and all that kind of stuff. So what also keeps us, a lot of times stuck in this cycle of abuse is, well, God dang, I know the supervisor's kicking my butt every day. They're mistreating me. I'm getting overlooked for promotions and all of that. But dang, I do got bills to pay. God dang, I do need these benefits. I do have mouths to feed, and so that also and sometimes keeps us in this cycle of abuse,
Yes.
and I know Dr. Daw talks about even the houses or the house of abuse. So, so once again, some of the things that I just agree with the notion that we have to rethink things. You have to reframe things and see things in a different way, in order to be able to see our healing through. And so, yeah, it's very, very complicated. It's very complicated.
Yes. Very complicated. One thing that all of this that we're talking about reminds me of is the similarity between these predatory leaders and gangs, cults, sororities, and fraternities. All these groups, they seem to mimic the family unit, where there's a
Right.
leader, the enablers, it's like
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a role to play, and it's almost like it's the dysfunctional family being recreated again and again.
Mm-hmm. But the family dynamic is the draw. Some people
Yes.
don't um, feel like they connect with their families, or they may feel like they're the black sheep, or they
Mm-hmm.
just need a family structure. They may not have had that growing up or whatever.
Yes.
Like Marcus was saying earlier, I said, Kofi, I'm sorry. They didn't grow up. You have to look back at their history and the environment that they came up through. And
Hmm.
because of that, they may be looking for family structures and people that they have something in common with, or some goals they're trying to achieve. And this group over here seems like the group for me,
Mm.
and we got that family structure. And they'll tell you that, we're a family, whatever.
Yes.
Like, great. That's what I've been looking for. And then they'll have this hero complex type thing for these leaders. Like you all were saying earlier, how they'll enable these leaders, when they're committing whatever crimes that they're committing. Yes, they'll enable them, but they may seek to want to be like them,
Hmm.
as far as their innate thoughts and processes that might be something that they have in common with them. So, you're looking at the big man or big woman or whatever, whoever this leader is, and it's like, I want that power someday.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I want that power. So you'll enable them. That's your hero. It doesn't matter what they're
Mm-hmm.
Right.
doing. I want a whole bunch of wives. I want to tell them what to do. I want them kissing my feet. I want all of that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get with the little girls. In the group. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and and turn them out or whatever he's doing. I want to be able to do that. I want that power to be able to
Hmm.
rule over people like that. So yeah, they would
Mm.
definitely enable
Right. And
the leader.
and then you find out that a lot of those people who are these predatory leaders,
Hmm.
somebody probably abused. Like a lot of times, you'll find out that somebody abused them or
Yeah,
neglected them. So it's kind of like they became this persona for
yeah,
themselves, not just for their followers.
right, right. That's true.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
very true for themselves.
When
'Cause
I see that,
that's
yeah.
their method of healing, but it's really not healing. It's really self destruction.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's their coping mechanism.
Right. They're coping mechanism.
I have to now have some power. I have to have some control over something. So
Hmm.
I'm just going to create, like Dr. Daw said, this fantasy.
Hmm.
They think
Mm-hmm.
it's real, but it's actually a fantasy.
Mm.
Hmm. A
So when I
destructive
see that,
fantasy.
oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm. I was just saying it's a destructive fantasy, but it's a
A
fantasy nonetheless.
destructive fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Dr.
When
Daw.
I see it, thank you, thank you. When I see it a little different.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not. I mean, I do see where it kind of models the family a
Hmm.
bit, but
Hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think I think it's kind of reverse engineered. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that the family, the gangs, the
Mm-hmm.
cliques,
Mm-hmm.
the businesses,
Hmm.
the institutions
Mm-hmm.
mimic the oppressive culture. the oppressor. It mimics this American. I'm reading this book here. It says the American metaphor of individual success. Free. It mimics this culture that's all about power, control.
Yes, and domination.
And yeah, thank you. I was looking for a word, and you just dropped it like dominate. Yeah, power, control, and domination, which is abusive. And
Yes.
if and the white man is the man, and everybody else has a prefix before their name or whatever, it's like adjective or what have you, right? So it's like the white man, the black man, is Hispanic man. I mean, the white man is just a man. Then you got black men and black women and everybody else, right? But the reality is we all are inferior, and this is the messaging that was taught to us, that we are inferior, and this is what you should aspire to. White greatness, and white greatness and dominance is the way to be. And as one of my mentors say, that the other thing, when you talk about gangs, a lot of times in this culture where it only respects one type of intelligence, you as a person, you feel like you want to be good in something. So if I'm not good in counting, or if I'm not good in writing, I'm not good at getting grades, I'm gonna be good at slapping people. I'm gonna be good at selling drugs. I'm gonna be good at looting people. I'm gonna be good at something. I'm gonna get respect some kind of way. But this culture says I have to be respected. And the gangs are just clones of American army, military, police, this American hegemonic system, imperialism. Our families then follow suit, and even the way that we teach our religious doctrine is modeled after domination.
Absolutely.
So everything we look at, we look through the lens of domination and power. And I need respect. And if I don't gain respect in this country or this culture, I'm nobody. So the man comes home and says, "Woman, respect me." The woman comes home and say, "Damn it, you respect me." The children's like, "You don't respect me." The brother said, "You stepped in my shoe, you were disrespecting me."
Right.
Everybody's looking for respect because especially the more oppressed you are, the less respect you feel that you have, and the more you desire it. So if I gotta gain respect by creating a gang and feeling empowered, so be it.
Right.
One of the things I thought about is tactics of those who oppress and those who abuse, to do something, but yet throw the rock and hide your hand.
Absolutely.
Claim victimization. Be the victim. And some have said Trump, with his ways and his antics, some have said that that's his biggest play in his book, is to be the victim. Everybody's out to bring him down. Everybody's out to get him. Everybody's out to do him in. But when I think about the dynamic with Black folk, when we come together, even if it's in the spirit of family, when we come together, even if it's in a harmonious fashion, it's still criminalized. And and so I think about just the other day, I was convening with a few brothers and sisters. It was about maybe 4 or 5 of us, and this is an old joke that I've never really found funny. Brother comes by, Black brother, says, "Well, y'all better stop hanging around and parlaying. They gonna think you're no good. They gonna think we starting to ride. They gonna think And I thought that was deep. Because why, when we come together and laugh and joke and just having a good time, just minding our business, why is that a threat? So it's like that's a tactic. It's like I'm going to blame you. I'm going to get the attention off of me and point you as the one who's imposing the harm on me. However, if we look at this thing from a societal level, if we look at this thing historically, there's different types of violence: voting violence, economic violence, educational violence. But yet, much of the dominant narrative that many, not all, but many would say is that we're the criminal people, we're the violent people. However, I think that it's important to look at the circumstances and the situations that have created stuff. Oftentimes, our stuff is protective. It's to protect ourselves from that which is imposed on us, not us starting stuff. So I think that's another form of manipulation, to blame others and have others look in this direction. if I'm in, while the others who are actually really doing the real harm, while they skate off and slither by, and people waving, letting them get away with murder, symbolically, culturally, spiritually, and physically.
Ah, Shay. I mean, I'm just dealing with this. I'm really like in real time, really. You kind of pointed to it earlier, brother Sankofa, about I just resigned, all but resigned from an institution, right? A PWI, liberal arts college in Pennsylvania, and just because the blatant racism, right? Just because the blatant, not blatant, but non-blatant racism, but I know racism. I wrote a whole dissertation on it. And that's what I had to kind of tell somebody this week at this more in this. I was the president of this of the Hamilton Business Association. I'll just call it. Okay. And it's so much racism in this organization that they literally decided in their minds, consciously or unconsciously, that they were not going to, for the most part, help me, aid me, although I was elected, and they didn't want to allow this to be successful. In fact, I mean, I can't even tell you the whole story, but what I would by the end of it, I had to let them know white privilege is real. White privilege is real, and then they want to go off. What the F? I say, this is in the text message. This is how white people talk, right? and I said, so I let them go back, and I let them go. This one lady, Emma T Spot, right across the street from me. I had to let her know. Like, I let her go off on her little white. See, I should have said, the more you talk, the more your privilege is evident. The more your ignorance is prevalent. The more that your perceived power is evident. And the more, I know we're getting off topic a little bit, but we talk about why we feel and why we feel the way we feel. Now, the difference between me, I'm made for this. And the reality is, you're not going to do, but somebody else, they will feel I can leave a job. I have some level of privilege, right? What I mean by privilege, I don't even like using the word because I feel like it's a liberal white word. But at the same time, I understand it for the sake of conversation. I have some privilege. I have some skill sets, right? I'm a business person, right? So at the end of the day, so what I'm saying is I had to let them know. I mean, and I don't do this to black people, but I had to do it to them. I mean, well, at least I have more. I would do it to them easier. I said, after they going back and forth about all this stuff, I said something to them about, I wrote a whole dissertation on this. I know what microaggressions are. It's just like crazy. I mean, getting back to what Brother Sankofa saying, the stress is real, the oppression is real, and white people are beautiful. I'm just gonna be honest. And I tried to understand them, but I understand them even better now. And I can't understand them on an individual level, as Dr. Amos Wilson said. But as a collective, they ignorant. They are oppressive, even if they know it or not. They are the maintainers of racism and quote unquote white supremacy. And they will not relinquish that position because it benefits them. And that's just clear. And I am more than clear, more clear than ever, that they will utilize anybody to position themselves in the seat of power, because the narrative in this country, the historical narrative in this country, is power, and everybody's fighting for it, including them. So they will use you and everybody else to get to where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's just their way of being.
Well, let me ask you this: when you said that you were elected, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were elected president. Okay. And do you think, with learning what you have about these particular people, do you think you were actually elected or selected as to be the black face to say that, okay, so, we have equal opportunity. Everybody
No,
has
no,
to.
no. They not that sophisticated. They
Mm-hmm.
just they needed some help. They seem like they liberals. At the school, I would say I was selected to some degree, elected and selected.
Okay.
I'm not foolish enough not to realize they need a black person on staff. But I also
Okay.
realized they could have chose other black people at the staff at the school. But I happen to be one that fit the bill to some degree. You understand?
Right.
Although I'm probably the blackest person they ever saw. So to some
Mm-hmm.
degree, the director actually said, you know, we need him because he taught that black stuff, and we need to be multiculturally diverse and all that. And he
Mm-hmm.
talks this stuff, and maybe you don't know how far I could go, but if you read my dissertation, you know it's clear that white
Mm-hmm.
people. My dissertation is what's it called? Measuring the relationship of race-based trauma, racial identity, and spirituality. And my stuff is clear in there. So I think that the director meant well. The school
Mm-hmm.
said, well, the director meant well. I'll be honest with you. She was a good old white person, good person. But then,
Mm-hmm.
but then the school is like, yeah, this will be diverse. That's what I think they more like,
Right.
yeah, this is a good idea. He did knock
Mm-hmm.
that interview out the park because I'm going to knock an interview out the park. I don't care if I got to teach a class, I'm going to count on myself because I can engage the audience, right? I can
Right.
engage them.
Right.
But at the end of God dang, this Negro, he's pretty good at a lot of things, isn't he? So, but anyway, I've had my experience. I've learned and I appreciate the experience, but racism is
Mm-hmm.
real.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
they'll try
and
to throw in that boomerang about if you say anything about them, oh, this is reverse racism.
Yeah, yeah. And this is what I wanted to thank you for, brother, because Brother Sankofa said something so pivotal. And this is what I experienced with these people and this HBA and everybody. All white people are really good. What they do really good is Brother Sankofa said, hide their hand and whatever, throw the rock and hide the hand. So what's going on? My internet is like, they got so much stuff acting like they oblivious. I
Mhm.
know you were trying to usurp me, lady. Shut up. I
Right.
know I know y'all talking chitter chatter. I know what's going on. I mean, and I'm not saying it's off at all. Because look, if you know me, you know I give white people all types of length. I give them length. But once because I try not to respond on my trauma, because my race-based trauma from being in this country and having this historical trauma. So I
Mm-hmm.
think
Right.
I've done a lot of work not to respond to that. But at the end of the day, they know how to act dumb. Oh, what happened? Oh, yeah, you know what happened. You did it, you liar. Just kidding.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and
Gaslighting.
What you
mhm,
call it? What you
and
call it?
he said gaslighting.
I thought you said yes, that's biting. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no. It's called
Oh
gaslighting. Is
yeah,
trying to make you
yeah,
um
crazy,
question your
yeah,
own sanity. Like,
crazy making. Yes.
right.
Well, and see this stuff, having to prove and overprove our humanity. This
Yes.
this is stuff that takes a toll. I mean, this is stuff that it takes a physiological, psychosocial, emotional, spiritual toll.
Yes.
Having to overprove your humanity, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's been whether it's been enslavement, Jim Crow, whether it's been lynching, peonage, convict leasing, but on up to redlining, mass
Mm-hmm.
incarceration, on up to present day, you name it. And so, uh, what when Dr. Dahl was sharing what he was sharing, I was thinking about how even historically, when Black folks was emancipated, whenever the institution of enslavement was abolished, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there were white folks who claimed to be abolitionists. They claimed to be these liberal folks. They claimed to be down for whatever, but they still wanted to have the upper hand.
Absolutely.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it
Mhm.
Right.
twisted. They
Mhm.
they was not trying to exchange no position. In fact, the competition was us. And so
Right.
we still see those things today, whether it's in these neighborhood organizations, in these work workplace arenas or the presidency and politics. In every aspect, we are a threat. We uh because our um our ascension and our mobility and our advancement and all of these things are a threat to bring down the things that they're doing, to abuse, to keep the
Right.
cycle of abuse going, to keep the cycle of manipulation going. And I think that it's also a trauma response.
Mhm.
I think it's because people who are controlling, they also are very anxious. They're
Mm-hmm.
very
Yeah.
anxious. People who are controlling are very unsettled. They're
Yes.
very nervous. They're uncomfortable. That's why I'll be like, look, I'm not accepting these deficit-based perspectives. I know we got some work to do and all of that, but no, we got them kind of shook, y'all. Look how they stand. Look at how they going to the range. Look how they getting strapped because of our success. And I refuse to accept just solely the gloom and doom perspective. I know that we have some work to do. Yes, we're talking about healing, but I also know we have been movers and shakers and we have agency. And I believe when we talk about healing, it's important to make sure we include the fact that we do have agency. We do have
Mm-hmm.
agency, but I think when the people have been oppressed for so long and they feel a sense of powerlessness, they feel a
Yes.
sense of helplessness, they feel a sense of hopelessness, ain't no agency. Agency goes out the window. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that hope, I think that we do have that, and I think history can help us be able to reclaim that and can inform us what we need to do moving forward.
Mm.
Great answers. Great answers.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next question: how do we protect and arm ourselves against these kind of predators that
Great segue,
prey?
huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Would you say, Brother Marcus?
I was saying, I guess I set you up for that segue, huh, Sister
Yeah.
Tavera?
So, what are some ways we can protect ourselves and our loved ones from these type of predatory behaviors?
Well, like Brother Sankofa said, they go to the range. But not only that, their children young. They teach their children young. You'll see pictures of them that look like the children about 4 or 5 or something. They strapped and they out there in the woods,
Mm,
target practice stuff. And then there are more women that you find that are licensed carriers.
mm,
There's even here in Richmond, these sisters, there's a group of sisters that own a gun range,
okay.
instructors. Yeah, so it's a popular thing to do. I don't know many, well, several women in my family that have the license to carry. I mean, people just come at you anywhere, out in public or anywhere, and then we have a problem with trafficking and
Mm-hmm.
like I said earlier, it's not just children, it's which is a huge problem, but young adults, teenagers, male and female,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever they, because it's such a huge business that people have preferences. So when they look into
Mm-hmm.
traffic, they want to make sure they have an enormous supply for them to choose from, even to the point of some hotels. I don't know if you all have heard about this or if you research it. Some major hotels have also participated in the access, like having secret doors and closets. Have you open a
Mm,
closet and there's a back wall to the closet, of
mm-hmm.
course.
Mm.
You push that, that's a door that leads to a tunnel.
Mm,
So that's another method of getting trafficking going. Then there was another article about a synagogue. They found a tunnel there. So
mm-hmm.
that was another method.
Oh yes, I did see that in New York. They
Mhm.
discovered tunnels being dug under a synagogue somewhere in New York. Yes.
So it's kind of hard to protect because you never know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can look real innocent. Even some women are the front people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people that you never suspect, and they
Mm-hmm.
getting you into stuff, even to the point of you may be in a parking lot at a mall or something, and they want you to try some perfume samples, and it's a drug to knock you out.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot. It's hard. I mean, you have to try to protect yourself and your loved ones, but you just got to be aware of so many different methods and procedures that they're using to try to get you in
This
the
is
place
true.
that they need you to be in, so that they can do the
Yes,
work.
yes, yes. Because oftentimes the predators they have not only the enablers that are protecting them, but
Mm-hmm.
they're helping them to groom other victims, to brainwash people, to subdue people. Not, other people, they're surrounded by people who are complicit.
Yeah.
What do you think,
That's
Dr. Asar? What do you suggest ways to
Well, well,
protect ourselves?
I'm thinking about, which is probably most of what we talked about during this conversation, to
Hmm.
protect ourselves against people who manipulate us
Yes.
psychologically, mentally, physically, especially psychologically, emotionally, intellectually.
Hmm.
Now my sister said, carry a Glock, right? And I think that sex trafficking and all that, that's on a whole nother level, right?
mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do, I think we have to deal with some things as a community to strengthen, to ward against that as well, right? But
Mm-hmm.
on to get back to what we spoke about mostly on this particular the topic, um I think we have to psychoeducate, right?
Hmm.
We have to educate our children and communities as we're doing here
Yes.
about these things. And it's hard work.
Hmm.
And we know that people want to come on the video, especially if you put some good names in here. I suggest you put some good names in here, since we, so that you can get some more people coming, and looking at it and calling us haters and all that. Yeah, if you really want to get it out there, just put some names in there. But I think, yeah, thank you. But nonetheless, we have to educate our children and our communities about personality. This is what I talk about. Many of
Yes.
us, we don't understand personality.
Hmm.
And when you understand personality, you can begin to identify what people call as red flags, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Because most of these people have very similar personalities.
Yes, they do.
And then we
Mm-hmm.
also have to do our own work. And that's really the crux of it as well. But we have to do our own work. And we have to do the work on ourselves so that we won't be so easily led to be reliant and codependent and needy and so on and so forth on
Yes.
others. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be interdependent, because I think that we part of it is we need to be more interdependent, and then we'll be less codependent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what I mean by that, a lot of us are so needy when it comes to our mate, because that's the only other person we got. And sometimes we get in these very abusive relationships and we can't leave, because I left everybody else for him or her.
Right.
It's just
Hmm.
us. Bonnie and Clyde is the white fantasy that we've all bought into again. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's this other thing where when we have to really begin to identify the behaviors of the people that we talk about, like a Umar and a Polite and a Nature Boy, and these people do the same stuff.
Yeah,
It looks a little different, but it's the same old script.
it's the same soup, different bowl.
And,
Yep.
and and I hate to say that there's other leaders that I would never say, because I know that we psychologically couldn't handle.
Hmm.
You understand? I'm talking about past, historically, and currently. Some of our,
Yes.
because we are still looking for even the resurrection of even some of these leaders. In fact, there's some people who come out with new cults to say they are the resurrection of those
Mm.
Yeah.
leaders. You understand? Especially my
Mm-hmm.
sister probably know in certain camps of the NOI, they got the resurrection and all these different camps, and God is
Oh yeah.
coming, and all these type of things. We have to deal with ourselves. We have to really find out how we have to, as Brother Sankofa spoke about, tap into our own agency.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And if you're part of the NOI or any other, you're supposed to know that you realize that you are a God.
Hmm.
That's right.
So live it and understand that no man outside of you is a greater God than you.
Hmm.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
saying that just in that language,
Mm-hmm.
because what happens is we feel so void. We're always looking out
Yes.
when it's time for we really need to look in.
Hmm.
But again, we have to really educate ourselves on these personalities, because these personalities are very evident once you really begin to identify them. I'll give you some more. I'm sorry, y'all might not agree, but like a 19 Keys or so many others,
Mm,
they the same script.
mm,
Why is a brother coming around with this gold chain? I'm gonna look at this 15 carats of gold, and you don't, and just putting out there for us to be allured by it, to be, oh my God, look at what he's doing. I want to be a part of what he's doing. Polite did the same thing. Umar don't do the same thing, but Umar tell you, I'm the best. I got it. I'm going to save the days. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make aeronautical engineering academies for everybody. We're going to have an indoor water park. We're going to have an outdoor ski ramp. We're going to have all types of stuff
mm-hmm.
just to pull on your taste buds.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to ground ourselves. I swear that sometimes we so, what they say, how they say, we so heavenly or spiritually good, so we so spiritually high, we know earthly good, or something like that. People say,
Yes.
but the reality is we need to ground ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We need to ground ourselves because when we don't ground ourselves, we're more likely to sign up for the fantasy.
Yes. I agree.
Wake up.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it's important, as well. Nadia, you trying to see Sister Nadia went Sister Tamara?
No, your voice was muffled in the beginning, but I can hear you clear now.
Okay, got you. I think healthy skepticism can be a good thing.
Yes,
Healthy skepticism. Now I
I
say
like
healthy
that.
because some of our people we fight every daggone thing. We'll question and just you say right, they say left, you say up, you say down. But healthy skepticism in terms of having a more critical eye with these personalities. And so I agree with what Dr. Dawes said. I think it first starts to educate yourself, or for us to educate ourselves more on psychoeducation as it pertains to personalities and understanding those red flags. I think that those who are the promoters who bring these people to town, a lot of these individuals now of course we're in times where you could be online and have a platform. Anybody can have a platform, so
Yes.
it's hard to regulate that. But I do think that a lot of these personalities, they're given the open access to our community too easily. They're given
Mm.
open access to our people to speak, to be on, to and I mean, I've been in conversations with where you know um certain individuals, peace, Dr. Daw, with where certain individuals uh may have been called into question, and the individual perhaps who might have knew the person coming may have had some stuff, but or possible issues in terms of what they were representing or how they were positioning themselves. But they was like, nah, because when they come to town, I'm gonna get that bag. We gonna make some money. So
Right.
I think that also there is something to be said about those who give these individuals access to continue to exploit and implore the means that they implore. Um, and I agree with what's already been said. Just doing that self work, doing our own internalized history, which is part of that self work, to really rewire and understand why we do what we do, why we operate the way we operate. And then what I would also say is, even on a practical level, I agree with the importance of us working together interdependently and as a collective. But I also think that, there are times where we may be in spaces where, we might not be per se amongst our people 24/7. That's just the reality. We
Right.
might just not be. But there are things we could do, like getting sleep, getting rest. In our communities, getting rest and getting sleep, that's everybody not doing that, exercise, setting those healthy boundaries,
Right.
you know, ex- uh, getting out there and connecting with nature, mindfulness. So there's a lot of stuff that I think we can do. But we just have to continue to commit to that healing process. And it's not easy. But I think
Yes.
that I appreciate you, Sister Tamara, for having this platform, for having this program.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely look forward to more conversations, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you want to say something else, Sister Nadia?
Let's see. Interdependent. Yes. I think as far as wrapping it up, no, I definitely enjoyed the conversation. It's just I'll just
Mm-hmm.
go back to the lack of unity thing. That's what's holding us back in a lot of areas that certain things that we want to achieve. We just don't have that support within each other. So that's just what we're dealing with. That's the reality of it. And to your point, Brother Sanko, for earlier when you were saying that crowds of people when they get around and the people they get nervous, and then they want to do something. And it's like, us being together is always going to be a threat. It's like, what are they talking about?
Yes.
Just like during slavery, what are they over there talking about behind that barn? It's 2 men in there together. Y'all separate. You go over there, milk a cow, you get back out in that car and field getting bills, and here you do this, you do that. You got to separate them because they start thinking and they start talking, and then they start planning, and then the next thing you know, they have left. So, or
Mm-hmm.
they causing some kind of problem. So you have to break that bond that they have. And I go back to the Willie Lynch syndrome. A lot of us are perpetrating that and putting that out front, but they don't put a label on it. They just doing the Willie Lynch syndrome. Willie Lynch syndrome. Excuse me. They're actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sabotaging. Or they'll come in like a thief in the night, like they're with you, but they're really against you. They're just there to infiltrate
Yes.
and sabotage. So then you have to deal with that situation as well. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to
It
dissect.
is.
But the healing portion of it's just hard to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Yeah. And I think all of what you all said and also what Dr. Saw shared with us, and it really also starts with us
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that, as individuals, we all need healing. And many of us are looking outside of ourselves for someone to validate or to that sense of belonging or to fulfill that fantasy that we have, and we oftentimes will hold on to these toxic people and situations
Yeah,
and until something unfortunate happens. So I think the healing process needs to begin and having these kind of conversations and just recognizing what is healthy behavior and what's not.
yeah. And then there was something else. Brother Sankofa
Mhm.
said that really resonated with me, having
Yes.
to prove your humanity.
Mm.
Why would you have to keep trying to prove your humanity? We weren't even mentioned in the Constitution. That's why you
Hmm.
keep feeling like you have to prove your humanity so that you try to get some kind of empathy or sympathy from the man, as Dr. Daw was talking
Right.
about. They're not going to give you any. You're
Hmm.
spinning your wheels trying to prove your humanity when we are seen as animals. For
Hmm.
lack of a better way of putting this, how they see us as animals. And every now and then, even in modern times, if you have conversations, or especially on social media, they'll go ahead and call you what it is that they want to call you.
Hmm.
With the safety, them being safe behind their screens. So, trying to prove your humanity to these people, to me, is futile.
Hmm.
Unless I'm trying to make some money and I'm trying to get some influence in there so that I can do what I need to do to support my family. You know, when you like in the job market or certain things like that, even entrepreneurships, you have to have some kind of connections and contacts. So
Yes.
you put on your professional hat and you know who you're talking to for real, for real. But at the
Hmm.
same point of time, you have to present a certain decorum and professional face to let them know I'm worthy of doing this, that, or the other, and maybe they'll see you as human for a millisecond, and I'll give you an opportunity. You might get along, or you might get that job. They have to have a certain number of permanent tan faces in there anyway. Like Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Dow was saying about the diversity. To make them look good, to make it seem like they're being fair, applying justice. But at the same point in time, you know who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to prove your humanity is kind of it's just futile. I don't see how you can prove your humanity to them because they're not going to see you as human. They
Mm.
just not. You know, they always, you got that ceiling that you were talking about earlier. You're only going to get so high.
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to get so high because the man isn't going to allow but so much. You may get these promotions and things like that, but unless you a self-made millionaire or something like that, and then with that, you may not make the top of the Forbes list. You may
Mm-hmm.
not. You might get close, but it's always going to be one of them that's higher than you. Their level is going to be higher than yours. So, you know.
Yeah. Brother Sankofa was trying to say something. You on mute.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
There
okay.
you
Yeah, I
go.
thank you. No, I was just saying, yes, I mean, um, in terms of us feeling the need to have to prove our humanity, I think that is why it is so important for us to affirm each other
Yes.
and to support each other.
Right.
And because it's one thing to say, okay, well, who are we to them? But then
Right.
who are we to each other? You know,
Absolutely.
and if we have a strong love for each other, if we care for each other um, and look out for each other, then it's really going to minimize what they do anyway. And I believe
Yes.
that us being having an unshakable confidence and being unapologetic and being
Right.
steadfast in who we are,
Mhm.
you know, to bait to we have to reclaim our mind because to base our self-concept and to
Mhm.
base our self-worth and value off of what the oppressor would for them to have to approve of us and for
Right.
them to have to legitimize us,
Mhm.
that basically puts the onus on them. That puts the ball in their court.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, um, I try to be who I am and not base it off of what they because if I wait on them to affirm
Mhm.
me and to acknowledge me and to see me as a human being, I might be waiting forever. And I
Exactly.
don't have that kind of time, you know. So
That's
yeah,
right.
so which is important to affirm each other. This conversation has been a absolute blessing.
Oh,
And
give
Mhm.
thanks. Thank you.
yeah, it's been an absolute blessing. I just want to say that Sister Nadia, it's been a pleasure to get to know you through conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
And
You as well.
and Dr. Brother Daw, we go way
Mm-hmm.
back, but I appreciate the conversation and look forward to many more.
Yes, yes, give thanks. Thanks. Any closing remarks before we close out?
I just like to thank you again for including me in the
Oh,
conversation.
thank you. Of course, I had to have your input. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work you do in the community. I've known you for a long time. I don't get to see you as much as I would like, but we got to work on that because we
Yeah.
might be family. But yes, the work that you do in the community, and you've always been a soldier when it comes to empowering people, especially women,
Mhm.
and helping people. You always been had that as the forefront. And
Yeah.
thank you for the work that you do in the community with trying to help with the missing persons and all of that, all the other stuff that you do.
I wish I could do more, but like Brother Kofa said, we just got to see each other in the human form and work
Yeah,
together because sometimes we just don't. We're so
yeah,
separated. We don't even see each other as humans. We just keep abusing each other, and we're not getting anywhere like
yes,
that.
no, absolutely,
It's
I
crazy.
just want to say this, Sister Tamara, since you asked us for
yes,
final words, I'll say this and I'll keep it brief.
Yes.
There's a quote that I wanted to raise up, and it's from Booker T. Washington.
Okay.
And he said these words. He said, success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which they have overcome.
Mm.
Yeah, success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles that they have overcome. And the reason why, that resonated in my spirit is because
Mm-hmm.
with this work of healing, this
Mhm.
healing work, which is not easy. We're
Mm-mm.
talking about unpacking and peeling back layers and layers of our own internal stuff to be
Yes.
better. Sometimes we could be hard on ourselves and because we're not where we want to be. We might
Right.
feel like giving up. We might feel a sense of hopelessness, or we might feel a sense of helplessness, or we might be like, why even bother? But look at how far we have come,
Yes.
and there have been successes and victories, I believe,
Oh yeah.
along the way. And once, without hope, there's what do you have to arm yourself to fight?
Mhm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's definitely work to be done. Yes, of course, but I think that um, it's also important for us to celebrate the things that we have done, so we
Right.
Mm-hmm.
can be able to use that as motivation to continue to propel us. So we can
Mhm.
know this work is not in vain. The work of
Right.
our ancestors is not in vain, and those
Mm-hmm.
that have come before us is not in vain. So yeah, we don't need to be hard on ourselves. Let's just continue to keep swinging. Let's continue to keep fighting. Let's continue to devote ourselves and commit to ourselves, to each other in the
Right.
healing process.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I agree. Well, thank you both for sharing your insight and your wisdom with us tonight. And I hope and pray that those watching now or who will watch this video later, this will motivate you to start the healing process. If you've ever been exposed to this kind of behavior, or if you're prone to it, start the healing process, because we're all in need of healing. And we got to be patient with ourselves and one another, as you said, Brother Marcus, we were unpacking. And years of conditioning and bad behaviors and cycles that we're all working towards. We should be working towards breaking some of these generational curses, or these patterns of behavior that have become normalized. That's not healthy for anybody. So with that, I thank you both. Look forward to having you all on here again and talking to you further. And peace and love, everyone out there.
Okay. Peace and love,
Peace.
Queen.
Peace. Thank you.